The other day we covered a story out of the New York Times on our Divide Show TV channel talking about more and more black parents are sending their children to Afrocentric schools. Well, I want you to listen to this particular story because this story is going to be another great case for us to create more schools in our community so our children don't have to deal with this white supremacist terrorism. But let's roll the clip.
My son shouldn't have to deal with this.
Sean Watts says the incident happened while his son was in guitar class.
And there was a student there and he's, talking about he's part of KKK.
Sean says the student was holding a rope and followed that comment up with racial slurs.
My son approached him and was like, you need to chill and relax. And the student hit him with the rope first. And then, my son grabbed him and, he put him down. And then he, left him alone. And when he turned around and walked away, that's when, the rope came around his neck.
According to a statement written by Sean's son, he yanked the rope off, walked away, and asked the teacher if he could go to another classroom. He told another teacher, and both boys were sent to the office.
And they told me that they were proud of the way my son handled himself.
Police charged the student with simple assault and battery, but Sean is upset the charges aren't more serious.
If that isn't a hate crime, what happened, I don't know what is. The only way I feel that racism can be eradicated, you have to confront it and call it what it is.
He also says he has more questions than answers about how the situation was handled.
I mean, he was in the classroom. I mean, I would assume something like that. If you're a teacher, you got to see it. It's ridiculous. I don't know what happened to the other child. I don't know if he might try to come back and be upset at my son.
A spokeswoman for the district tells us the school has taken appropriate action. However, they can't comment on individual student discipline.
Now, that little brother that wrote his statement talked about how he walked in and heard this white supremacist teen stating that he was a KKK member. This is what he's gladly saying. And then when he heard him say this, this guy decided to try to hit this young brother with a rope, and that brother put him on his backside. And that's what he wrote in the statement. He also wrote in the statement, the guy got back up and threw the rope around his neck. He took it off his neck and threw it away and put him on his backside again. He had to defend himself, which is correct and which is everyone's right to have self-defense for your person. The thing is, if we have more Afrocentric schools, we won't deal with that because we won't be around people like that individual that's a white supremacist running around saying he's a KKK member. He can be whatever KKK member he wants. If our children are in schools where they're safe, they don't have to deal with racism, they don't have to deal with any kind of white supremacy, they don't have to deal with teachers being biased because the child is black, they don't have to deal with this school to prison pipeline, you don't have to deal with those race soldiers they're putting in schools, you don't have to deal with them trying to say your child should be in special education because they don't want to be challenged to actually teach him or her. We don't have to deal with any of that. We'll have teachers that have love for our kids, understand where our kids come from, understand some of the pitfalls that they have to deal with and get them to appreciate education and learning. But as long as we're dealing with these public schools, we're going to continue to deal with this kind of racism. And there are people that will come through. Let me address those black folks first. Some black folks will say, well, that's not the answer. Well, you don't have the answer to stop this from happening, do you? No. It's like any kind of animal or human being or whatever. Are you going to keep going around danger? Are you going to keep being in places where something like this can happen instead of removing yourself from those kind of environments and getting in an environment that is good for you to be in? That's just common sense. That's just logic to do this. We are past the time of begging them to stop being racist. I don't care if they're racist or not. I don't care. That's not even the issue. I have accepted that's what they want to do. That's how they like to be. I've accepted that because if they didn't like that, they wouldn't constantly teach their children that. Remember, we posted a video about a little girl who was saying that she was going to blame an imaginary black man for stealing some cookies. And the mom laughed at that. That shouldn't have been funny. but that child's only really repeating what that child heard. So they teach that when they're little children to have this hatred for black people. So we just have to accept that. Now you may say not all of them. I didn't say all of them did that, but too many of them do that where the good people is the minority. So we can't sit up there and focus on the good ones. We got to focus on the ones who are in the majority, right? So we have to take control of our children's education, because the school board, the school district, the principals are not going to protect black children. They don't care to protect black children, and that has been shown based on how our children have been treated. It don't matter what state you're in, you're going to deal with the same issues and problems. I'm not saying all of it comes from the teachers, but it comes a lot of times from those students as well, because a lot of them are raised in some of those households where people talking all ugly and greasy about black people. We didn't do nothing to them to deserve that kind of treatment. But I'm not trying to figure out why we're hated. I don't even care at this point. It's silly. We just need to worry about fixing ourselves and doing for self, like we've been told by many people that's been before us and who's transitioned on to a better place. We have to take control of our education, brothers and sisters. If we can't have Afrocentric schools, then we need to start considering homeschooling. Our children should not be terrorized by white supremacist school students. It shouldn't happen like that at all. Same thing on college campuses. You see the exact same thing. They go to PWIs, same issues. You don't hear these issues at HBCUs. We have to think about this and actually make a move. Take control of our education, send our children to HBCUs, have Afrocentric schools. They do so much better there than the public school system, which is not meant to educate us at all. It's meant to indoctrinate us. And why would you want your children to be indoctrinated on top of being treated dirty just because of the color of their skin? No, we have to take responsibility. We can't always complain about what racists are doing. If we're not trying to counter that, if we're not trying to make sure our children are protected, then we just need to stop complaining about it. That's how I feel about that. We got to stop talking and start doing more things that's tangible within a community. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story with this brother. I know the young brother defended himself, but this brother should be in a school where he could be comfortable and don't have to deal with white supremacists saying they're in the KKK.